working on your business planning. I know, the majority of you in the room are new agents, new to the business, and you're thinking like, how do I plan for something I haven't done before? But Angela's going to take you through what that all entails and some ideas on how to start planning for the new year coming up and how to plan your weeks effectively so that you are not wasting time. Sometimes as entrepreneurs, we can feel like, we have a lot of flexibility, which we do, but we tend to sometimes get lost in that flexibility and not always make the best use of our time. So Angela has some great ideas for you guys that everything she shares, we will also share in the Bootcamp page for you coming up. But before we get started, if you are new this week to EXP, welcome to the family. Thank you for joining us. If you haven't received your Bootcamp enrollment yet, somebody's saying it's quiet in the class. No one's talking. Amy, will you type back and just let them know what to do, please? Sorry. If you just arrived this week to Bootcamp, you're going to be enrolled on Friday. We'll send out all the information for you. So keep an eye out for your welcome email and your invite to our meet and greet. But please stick around and enjoy the class today as we go along. We are in week 4. So if you are joining us for the first or second time and you're thinking, I missed a couple weeks, you didn't. We are going to cycle back to the top of the cycle, I guess. We're a 12-week bootcamp cycle. So we'll go all the way through and come back around, and you'll just end at week 3 if you started at week 4. All right, for the 5 blue and green.
Sorry, I have a question. It's not relevant.
Sure.
I have missed my new bootcamp commitment thing. From my end, I think I did, but
okay.
They received it. What should I do? I emailed Nikki as well twice, but I haven't heard back from her yet.
Okay, I don't have it. I've gone through all my emails, so I'm not sure where that is, but let me just check here and see, and we can reset it for you. Your courses do expire, guys. So if you are getting expiration notices on your courses, just let us know and we will reset them for you. There's course deadlines for a reason, of course.
It was due before 22nd. I sent it on 19th. You guys haven't received it?
Just going to try to look for it. Can you send us a message in workplace chat? Because I'm trying to look up your name and I'm not finding it. And I just want to move on with the class. But if you just send us a workplace chat to either Amy or I, will make sure we reset those courses for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Amy, do you want to start with the housekeeping notes? We will drop the attendance link right away here, guys.
Sorry, I was just trying to finish up a message there.
Oh, yes, I know. It's hard to text and talk, right?
All right, good morning, everyone. We'll go over some quick housekeeping items before we get started. First off, I'll drop the attendance form for everybody in the chat box. Please make sure that you fill that out. If there's any slides or presentation documents from today's class, they will be shared in the NABC workplace group after this session. Just a quick reminder, when you're in MindFlash, as Nikki showed you earlier, please click on Course Catalog. That will give you access to all of the courses in MindFlash. If you need a copy of your success tracker, please refer back to your welcome email, or it is pinned to the top of the NABC workplace group. That outlines all of the required courses that you guys need to complete. Okay, you'll notice in the top right-hand corner, there's a settings gear. From there, there's a few things that you can do. You can change your avatar, you can update your preferences in the world, or if you're having any sound issues, you can click on reinitialize your voice. There's a few ways that you can zoom into the stage or any of the presentation screens up front. First off, to the right of the chat box, there's stage zoom. If you'd like to zoom into any of the screens up front, you can hover over screen zoom up top and click on any of the magnifying glasses. If you're having any issues with viewing the screen, you'll notice at the top of the screen, there's a refresh button. You can click on that and that'll clear the page. Hey, if you'll notice there's a mic to the left of your bottom screen. We just ask that you keep it off during the presentation just to avoid any feedback. And if you're calling in from a phone today, we ask that you keep yourselves muted. If you have any questions or comments, please use the chat box and we'll respond to those during the presentation. And if you would like a copy of the chat today, all you have to do is simply right-click the black area and paste that into a separate document. If you have any questions for Nikki or I, you can reach out to us at our Bootcamp email address. It's bootcamp@exprealty.net, or come visit us in the provincial lobby and pull a blue ticket. That's all I have for housekeeping items.
Awesome, thank you. I'm just found Balginder's name. I'm going to reset her courses as we speak. I don't have an email, but that's okay. We've got it. You're all reset, Balginder, so you're good to go.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I couldn't sleep at night because my bedtime. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. It's reset and ready to go. All right. Oh, Jeremiah, do you want to send us a chat in workplace chat, and we'll look into that then? I just see in the text you're saying you don't have access to the courses, but yeah, send us a workplace chat. We'll look into it. Good morning from BC. You can take notes, absolutely. We will be putting the presentation up on the New Agent Bootcamp workplace group, so you'll be able to look at that afterwards. Somebody is asking how to dance when you come on stage to graduate. So there's a few ways. Under your name, on the go-to menu, you can click on your name and there's a dance option, or you can press F7 on your keyboard and it'll also help you dance. So there you go. All right. Okay. So we're going to get started with today's course. Our presenter is Angela Porrelli. She is one of our icon producing coaches and agents out of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And she is here to share with you guys all of her experience and knowledge and organizational tips for business planning as you get started here in your real estate career. So come on up, Angela, and take it away.
Hey, everybody. All right. So I'm assuming they've got the screen switched over there so you can see everything. Okay, so as Nikki said, I'm Angela, and I have been in real estate here. It's coming up on my 16th year pretty quickly, so I've been doing it for a little while. Kind of what we'll run over here today, I'll tell you a little bit more about me, kind of how I got started, my career. And then we're going to touch base on mindset, which I know you've done other full classes on, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on that. But we will touch on it because I think it's very important when we're looking at planning our business, not just for the year, but even on a day-to-day basis. We're going to look at how we can actually set up our goals, how we can start to implement those things, track what we're doing, and finding some balance in life. So at any time, if you guys have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, and fine if you turn your mic on and ask questions, whatever's easiest for you guys, but don't hesitate to kind of jump in. So as far as I go, this is my family here. I've got 2 young adult kids, and again, this picture I desperately need to update. I just don't often have the 4 of us together or actually get a picture of everybody. So my son is actually out in Vancouver, so he is taking film, specializing in visual effects and 3D and all that kind of stuff. So he's got a fun career ahead of him and all that. My daughter is on hiatus at the moment, but she's partway through her elementary French immersion degree. So she's the only bilingual one out of the group of us. And they are both out of the house. So my husband and I are empty nesters, and we just have our 2 little puppies that you can kind of see there. They're our entertainment. And I have been married coming up on 24 years here, like I said, in real estate for almost 16. So I started out when my kids were both heading into school. That was when I got into everything. I figured I wanted to do something where I would still actually have a chance to be home for my kids after school, really kind of place them as that priority, especially when they were young or needing running around to sports. And I wanted the ability to scale up as I got older. So I'm only licensed in residential. We had a brief window in Saskatchewan where when you got your license, you could pick exactly what it was. All right, so that's a little bit about me. So let's touch base on mindset here. I've sat in on a few of the mindset classes in Bootcamp, And I know that you guys get fabulous information in there on a broad variety, but one of the quotes that has caught me before, it just says, it's therefore important to make sure you celebrate your small goals along the way. Acknowledging small wins sparks the reward circuits of our brains and releases chemicals that give us a feeling of pride and a happiness factor, making us want to go further towards our next achievement. So whether or not you guys actually processed it that way or not, even when Nikki was starting to ask you about different things that you have going on, wrote out your week and stuff, we actually touched a little bit. It's like when you start talking about, okay, you booked an open house or you got showings on listings, things like that. Those are actually all wins. Or I mean, if something happened where you managed to maybe complete something this week that you haven't before, those are all good wins to reflect on. So if you guys want to open up your mics or pop in the chat, what are some just small wins that you may have experienced in this last week that you haven't reflected on yet? You guys can share.
Getting my business cards made.
Perfect. That's huge. I love it. Databasing. That's an excellent start. Good. Making the move to EXP as of last Friday. Welcome. Happy to have you. Getting more bookings from our Airbnb. Yeah. Double-ended a deal. Finished building my website. These are all really good. Starting my business socials. Yeah. Updating all my social media. Spoke to 3 friends in person about real estate business. Got a listing up and a listing presentation. Nice. Got licensed. Congrats. First 2 showings last week. FinTrack course. Working with new investor client. Vanity website up. These are really good. You guys are being really productive. I love it. Started training. Started 23 weeks ago. First time realtor working on second deal. Good job. Helped with an open house. Yeah, those are all really, really good. So what happens when we are actually starting to reflect on these things is we change our mindset. We actually adjust the way our brain is firing for the rest of the day. We start to focus on the positive and the good things, which actually gives us more incentive to continue doing more positive things throughout the day. So those are all really good. Some of the things that I really, really like you guys mentioned in there are having your social media updated. You've got your database going, you're working on your websites, business cards. I actually just met with an agent in our city here the other day who's been in the business for quite some time. It's been a few years now. He's been through 2 different brokerages already, thinking about switching over to EXP, and he still doesn't have some of those basics in place. He doesn't have anybody who has ever taught him that these are some of the things that he needs to do. So the fact that you guys have done that is huge. I mean, it's way ahead of, I know agents who've been in for a really, really long time that never get those things done. And I mean, whatever, that's kind of their prerogative, but you can make your life a lot easier, definitely, if you're getting these things taken care of. So with those wins, I mean, I know not everybody is comfortable sharing as well. If you've got a pen and paper with you, even in your phone or whatever, so jot down, thinking over the last, not just last week, but the last, few weeks, month, 3 to 5 personal wins that you did. Think of the things that were mentioned in here, whether you did your first open house, if you got your business cards done, if you got your database organized, those are all good things to reflect on. For some people, a simple win can be the fact that they, actually got online and maybe reached out to a few people or made some phone calls. Those are all good things. So write down not just business wins, but also look into your personal life as well. Did you get a little bit of extra time with your kids? Did you maybe hold your temper one day when normally you would have reacted differently and maybe gone off the cuff? So take a few minutes and just write down a few wins that you've had both in your personal life and in your business life. And actually putting them down in paper in front of yourself is a really good tool to kind of have your brain process them differently. So from there, we want to take a little bit of a look into goal setting, what that looks like. So business planning, people often think, okay, we've got a few more things in here. Small one, 5 contacts in the morning. That's very good. Took kids for dinner, going today to a presentation. Yep, those are all great. All those kind of things. And it's good to focus on. A lot of people put into a practice, they call it their daily gratitude practice, where they do this once a day. Some people do it in the morning, some people do it in the evening, some people do it both times, where you run through usually about 5 to 10 things that you're grateful for, or else little wins that happen throughout the day to kind of reset your focus. So in the business planning side of things, we go definitely beyond just basics of How many transactions do I want to do? How do I get my business going? Because in order to be well-rounded people, which is one of the things that EXP really, really promotes, is we have to look at all the different areas of our life. We're not going to excel in, life in general if we just focus on one thing. So when we're looking at goal setting, I like to look obviously at the business side of things, health and fitness, your spiritual growth, the educational side of things, your relationships, and your personal growth. So these are kind of the different areas. Different systems break them down a little bit differently, but most of the time when you're looking at an overall goal setting plan, if you're working with somebody, they're going to get you to look at all these different areas. We're going to touch on them all briefly. We'll definitely focus on the business side as well, because I know that you guys are working on that today. But as an example, so on the business side, we can start to break down how much you want to make in income, how many transactions you're going to have to do to get there, and even beyond what you want to make in commission income, what do you want to bring in for revenue? Because that's completely different. I mean, as real estate agents, we still have to pay our taxes, we have to pay our expenses, all that kind of stuff. So what does that leave you with in the end? And you can set a goal for that. Health and fitness, it can be goals in our eating habits, our exercise, how much rest we're getting. Some people go so hard and forget that rest is another important to the health and fitness side. Spiritual growth, practice through whether or not there's a religious aspect involved, entirely up to the person themselves, but things like gratitude and silence and your personal beliefs, those are all things that play into your spiritual growth. Education, whether it's through coaching, mentoring, getting different designations, or simply some of the books that you're reading and taking in. This doesn't have to cost anything. We've got so many ways to get good education in EXP in the world through all the different teachings that are going on. Relationships, and that's one of the things I like there. You noted on one of your wins that you took the kids for dinner, things like that. Perfect. Those relationships have to become a priority, and we actually should be setting goals in what we're doing with those relationships. And then of course our personal growth, we can't leave ourselves out of the equation, or we don't have anything to give anybody else in business or in relationships. So you want to look at what your interests still are, what your hobbies are, if you like, books or travel or what it may be, and setting goals for yourself in those areas so that you can also be the best version of who you are. Now, the goal setting strategy that I like to use, and I reference all these at the end in some different books. One of the books that really made a difference for me in my business planning element is a book called The 12-Week Year. And the strategy behind it is it breaks things down from long-term goals into medium goals, short-term goals, and daily habits. So you've got a picture of a football game here. This really applies to oh, there you go, you read it. Exactly. You can read it over and over again and learn new things from it. I actually put it on Audible, and when I'm kind of in between some other books, I'll let that one play so that I remind myself of stuff I need to be doing and picking up. So sports in general are just a good analogy when it comes to goal setting. So if you take something like football, and it's not that I know a lot about football, but I know that, if you're in Canada, winning the Grey Cup is kind of your overall goal as a team. If you're in the US, which I know we don't have people in here, but Super Bowl, just those kind of two big elements. That is their long-term goal for the year. But if that's all they focus on, book was called The 12-Week Year. That's all they focus on. They're going to lose sight of how to get there. So from there, they have to break down medium goals. Before they get to the Super Bowl, they have to win their division, right? So there's a medium goal that way. Before they can win their division, they have to actually win a bunch of separate games. They have to focus on the game at hand, which is a short-term goal. But at the same time, in order to win the game at hand, they need really good daily habits. So we're going to look at our business planning kind of in that same way, what our long-term goals are for the year, how we can break that down into some medium goals, short-term goals, and daily habits to actually get us there. All right, excuse me. So as far as breaking it down here, if we take a look, and we're going to kind of focus on the business education side for example here. And I mean, you guys can take this, you can apply it to the personal, spiritual, every other area of your life. And I've been promising Nikki for the last few times that I've actually taught this, that I would share my PDF with you guys. I've got a whole printout that basically breaks down, you can print it off, and I print it quarterly because it's based, like I said, every 12 weeks. The first one, which is kind of nice, the first page gives you a way to kind of look at your year in review, and then from there you start breaking down what your goals are for the year. And then each 12 weeks, there's going to be little pages that you can start to write down your daily habits you're going to be implementing and tracking what you're doing. So from a business setting, let's kind of jump back into there. Say you're brand new to the business and you want to earn $100,000 in gross commissions. So, I mean, I'm from a smaller market. Our average commission here is somewhere between about $5,000 to $6,000. So just for nice round numbers, we're going to say $5,000 per deal on a commission. So in order to do that in my market, in order for somebody to earn $100,000 in gross commission income, they're going to have to do 20 transactions. Now, when you start out in real estate, you're usually a little bit heavier weighted on buyers than you are on listings. So right now I said, what if my goal is to work with 12 buyers this year and 8 sellers? Those numbers could change, but that could be a goal that was set. So in order to break that down a little bit further, what does that mean that I have to do in a quarter? Per quarter, I'm going to have to work on trying to close 5 deals. So if we're breaking it down under that same realm of the 8 sellers, 12 buyers for the year, I would need to try and get 2 listings in a quarter that actually sell, 3 buyers. Now, again, that's all fine and easy to say, but if we're going to break it down further, what are some short-term, what can I do for a month, monthly goals to actually get me there? So you guys actually touched on a few of them earlier. Some of your best lead generation activities that you can do without putting any money out are open houses. If you're not sure how to convert buyers from open houses, if you happen to know agents in your area that are good at them, ask if you can possibly, maybe get some tips from them. Some people let you shadow, not everybody will. Or else start jumping into the world. I have no doubt that if you go on Workplace or in DXP College, you'll find, like I think Nikki mentioned it earlier, some courses on how to actually work open houses and how you're going to convert those buyers. That's one of the best places to pick up new buyers in order to get these transactions going for you. Networking. Do you guys have any thoughts on where you can do your networking? Places that you're just involved around people. You don't constantly be having to tell them that you're in real estate, but it does come up naturally. People always start to ask, what do you do? Kids sports events, exactly. Social media, kids activities, hockey games, 100%. Even something as simple as dropping your kids off at school, now that we don't just have to stay away from everything. If there's actually a spot where you're getting out of the vehicle, you can chat with other parents around there. Gyms, yep. Events and associations, running groups, running club, totally. Do you guys have the concept there? Anywhere that you are in a group activity where there's other people around, that is your networking opportunity. Exercise class, doctor's appointments, totally. It always comes up. One of the first questions people ask in conversation, well, what do you do? And you can tell them, and starting to put your name out there as the fact that you work in real estate, you'll start to have more conversations. The more conversations you have, the more leads you're going to get. There are certain networking groups that you can join intentionally. If you have a BNI group in your area, it is a paid membership usually, but what happens there is it's a bunch of business, it's a business networking group where you'll have a real estate agent, maybe an accountant, an inspector, things like that. And you guys will start to refer people around each other. You can actually join intentional networking groups like that as well. Even hopping onto Workplace and looking for, if you're in Alberta or Saskatchewan or something, start looking for postings in there about agents sending or looking for referrals in the area. So, there's lots of spots, touch base with other agents and set up referral elements that way. You can work your sphere of influence. So your sphere of influence can actually become part of your database. Your database can be, your friends, your family, everything else. And we do have to be careful in this day and age, who we email, how we're doing our calls and stuff. We've got classes on that. But if it's people that you know really well, you can even in the beginning, if you happen to have their physical address, write out a letter just saying hey, just want to let everybody know that I've switched careers or I've started a new career. This is what I'm doing. And just let everybody know that you're in real estate. Work that sphere of influence and talk to people and just get it out there. More advanced, if you have extra money that you want to spend, you can start to farm an area, which basically means you do mail outs and stuff. And that's I would actually not focus on starting with that right away because that's a higher cost. I would be more apt to be working my sphere, my networking, my open houses, details like that are very cost effective. So those are goals that you're going to make on a monthly basis. How many open houses am I going to do? where am I going to network? What groups do I have right now that can actually go and talk to? So same thing, somebody else mentioned the gym. I'm at the gym 3 days a week, and I conscientiously now start to talk to more and more people, kind of get to know the people that are there on a regular basis, what they're doing, even the people who are working the front all the time, get to know people. Fear of influence, again, like we said, just making sure that you're actually out talking to people. Go out for lunches, take somebody for coffee, and just be genuine, asking them how they're doing and creating those relationships. The more people actually trust and like you, the more they're going to pass your name on when it comes to real estate. Now, daily actions and habits. So you can map out what you're doing for your monthly ones, and then on a daily basis, different things that you can do. You can see a few notes in here that I have about calls, text, videos, social media. So a lot of people will actually set a specific number of contacts that they need to make every day. Now, those contacts can be made by direct messaging somebody on social media about a post that they've made. You can randomly send out a text. So one of the things that I found now that I've been in for a little while, if I'm driving through an area of the city that I haven't been in for a bit, and I drive past a client's house, I haven't seen them for a while, I'll often just say like, hey, just happened to be showing in your area, drove past your place, thought about you, how are you doing? I'm not asking them if they have anything to buy or sell. I'm just saying, and if it's not somebody that I'm necessarily close to, but we're, kind of acquaintances and stuff, we've stayed in touch, just to say like, hey, I happen to be showing in your area and saw your house, made me think of you. How are you doing? It's just an easy way to touch base with people. So somebody commented earlier, they made touch base with 5 people the one morning. That's perfect. If you have a goal to touch base with 5 people every day, 10 people, whatever your number is, it doesn't have to be cold calling. Cold calling is your thing and you like calling physicals and stuff, that's perfectly fine, but it doesn't have to be. You can have those warm touches where you're just staying in front of people that you know, and try not to make it the same people all the time. That's where your database really comes in handy. Some people will do it alphabetically and they'll just, find a way to touch base with the first 5 in the alphabet one day and then just keep working through, and then they just keep cycling through. That's Brian. That's one of the ones that I found is just easy because otherwise I find it awkward sometimes to reach out to past clients and just say hello. So that can be a good way to do it. But definitely set a specific number for yourself where you're going to commit that you're going to touch base with a certain number of people and get it out of the way. And like I said, it doesn't have to be a specific call. So I'm not a huge social media fan. I'm on social media, I'm on every platform, but I definitely get help with it because I don't like spending the time to do it. When I'm on my social media, what I'm doing is I'm looking for people that I know, past clients. They posted anything that has the opportunity that you can actually comment on it. I'll usually direct message them a little note about it. Even if they have pasted a quote that they like, and if it resonates with me, I'll direct message them and be like, yeah, totally agree with you on that. I think that's great. Or obviously kids' birthdays, things like that. Those opportunities just to reach out. So now from an education side, because education goes so hand in hand with our business side, I personally believe it's really important, no matter what level you're at in your business, to constantly be educating yourself. So in a long-term goal, you can basically make a general goal that you're going to consistently train yourself throughout the year. You can basically commit that you're going to pick a certain number of books throughout the year that you're going to read. Make some long-term goals that way on your education. So now when you start breaking it down quarterly, I find there are some courses that are a year long, so you can start to make that a long-term goal. But there's also a lot that are a little bit shorter, so they can be really good kind of medium quarterly goals where you're like, okay, I've got this next 3 months, I'm going to hammer through this course. Whether you're finding a course through somebody in EXP world, or if you've got independent ones that you want to do, pick a course, add it to your calendar. And then if you're into listening to books, reading books, which I highly recommend, pick 3 books that you're going to read. And I mentioned Audible before, or any of the kind of audio books are super handy because we spend so much time in our vehicles. So I actually, in order to make myself constantly have books on the go, I just have a subscription to Audible. $14.95 a month, I automatically get a credit for a book. I don't like letting that go to waste. So every month I have a different book on the go. My books are always either educational or mindset that I'm going through, and that if I'm going to read a storybook or something, I set that aside for a separate time, but I actually have goals on how many books I'm going to implement on a quarter. top 3 books you'd recommend. I actually got to list them for you at the end, so then I'll have them up on the screen so you can take a look. I've got so many books. I'm actually in the middle of one right now that I'm really enjoying. It's called Willpower Doesn't Matter. I believe that's what it is, by Benjamin Hardy. It's a good one, just off the top of my head, but I'll drop a few more at the end here. So now, on a short-term goal with education, if you've picked a course, how are you going to finish it? It's easy to say that you're going to do a course, but I totally am bad for, like, you know, if you don't actually schedule into your calendar, the course doesn't always get done. Yeah, Kat, I do. I listen to books while I'm walking my dog as well. So if you can commit in your calendar to a minimum of 1 hour a week where you're going to set it aside for education, you'll be surprised at how much you can hammer off. So if you're not sure as well, if you can't think of one specific course to add, one of the really good places that I would suggest that you start is the iConversations. If you haven't checked them out yet, they run at a regular time, so you can easily get them scheduled into your calendar, know when to expect them. But you're learning some really good information. I hop in and listen because I love hearing how other agents are doing the business. I love finding what works for them, because you're going to pull bits and pieces from each of that to what actually works for you. I did notice somebody in there mention podcasts. That is another thing that I really like as well. If you find a podcast that has the information that is going to be helpful to you, also good. Sorry, just fighting off a cold here, so my voice is a little off. So those would be your short-term things, but definitely schedule in training and commit to getting through a book every week. Like we said, whether you're walking or if you're driving, whatever. Now, on a daily basis, daily actions to take with that is listening to books, like we said, either committing to listen to them while you're walking your dog or for at least 10 minutes in the car in order to start getting through them. But you'll even find that if you're doing your 1 hour a week of educational training, you're probably going to be spending a little bit more time on it. Depending on what you're listening to in there, you might be able to start to apply daily actions to that training as well. And things, but even just that education of listening to the educational books for at least 10 minutes a day can be super helpful. So yes, from there, so this is that book that I'd referenced there. It's got the author in it for you, The 12-Week Year, Brian P. Moran. One of the quotes from his book is, "Execution is the single greatest differentiator. Great companies and successful individuals execute better than their competition. Barrier standing between you and the life you're capable of living is a lack of consistent execution. Effective execution will set you free. It's the path to accomplish the things you desire." So people don't always, I think sometimes people get caught up that somebody's better at something. They've got a more outgoing personality, so it's easier for them. It's the people who are consistent in their implementation, who are practicing their daily touches, implementing their open houses, actually planning it out in a strategy, who are consistent over time, that really win out in this industry. So that's kind of where we're going at it from there. So now your long-term goals, I'm sure you've got a few things kind of floating around in your head. We're not going to delve into it too in-depth at the moment. This is something that you're going to want to spend some more time with on your own. I would recommend taking an afternoon or morning, setting time aside. We'll give you my PDFs if you want to use them. You're welcome to print them off or modify them to make them your own. But just right now, off the top of your head, feel free to put them in the chat if you want, or quietly on your own pieces of paper. Start to think about what some of your long-term goals are going to be for 2023. How much you want to do for income. How many transactions that's going to look like in your market. Are there certain big things you want to work at? Just started in the industry, computer. Icon March 2023. I love it. That's a great goal. The upgrading your computer can be something that you now set out a plan, or how much you're going to be taking from different checks, how much you need to put away on a quarterly basis. 100,000 in 2023, perfect. That's great. If you want to start to plan out what kind of networking groups you're going to join, if you want to expand your networking group, 14 or your T4 next year, gotcha. Boost my income to 100,000. Yeah. What else do we have here?
I immediately wanted to chant, "Quit that job." I don't know why.
I know, right? Yeah, exactly.
It feels so great to jump, fully into real estate and really get started. But I, of course, don't just do it. Make sure it's the right choice.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and obviously, you know, if you've got a spouse on the other end who's got some feedback as well, you gotta
right, the mortgage appraisal.
figure it out.
Sorry, that's what came to my head and I had to share.
That mortgage won't pay itself. Yeah, no, we totally get that. Exactly. Save half my income. Okay. Yeah, so these are some good long-term goals. So now if you start looking at those in general, start to think about ways you can chunk that down a little bit into purchase a house for myself. There you go. Some of your medium goals, how can you start to break that into some smaller elements? So again, for the people that are talking money-wise, if you're going to make $100,000, how many transactions does that look like for you in your market? Some people, it's going to be similar to what I said with the 20 transactions. Maybe it's going to be way less if you live in a big center. And some of you it's going to be quite a bit more if you're in a slightly smaller center as well, depending on where your market is at. But really break that down to see how many you're going to have to do per quarter. If you're saving for 15 transactions for me, there we go. So we got a number. At least 20 to 25, yeah. Few extra in that particular market. So now again, if you're saving money for something in particular, how much do you need to put away every quarter? Do you have an idea on, you know, say you need a new car for work, somebody said purchasing their house, how much do you want to put away every quarter for that down payment? Start to break that down. Give yourself tangible numbers and tangible things to work towards. And the more we focus on something, there's that saying, I always get it a little bit wrong, but energy flows where focus goes. One of those things. I'm sure you've heard it before, you get the idea. But it's so true. When you can start to put your goals on paper, start to break it down, your subconscious, it's amazing what the brain does. It starts to kick into gear and starts to formulate ways for you to get there. It starts to create means for you to make it happen. When you start to focus on it and really visualize it, that's why people are so big into vision boards and stuff like that. It's not something hokey. It's literally that your subconscious is yes, you manifest it. It's another way to put it. Your subconscious is an amazing tool that goes to work in the background for you. That's why people will practice gratitude before bed, because that changes their focus before they go to sleep. They'll start thinking about something that they want to accomplish before they go to bed, and then they go to sleep and let their mind kind of work on it throughout the evening. There's some fascinating things to really start to get into when you get into the mindset side of things. And that's why we put our goals on paper. That's why we break them down and get them laid out. So again, we get back into our short-term goals. So this is where we're looking kind of more in that monthly element. You need to start to generate those leads for that 15, 20, 25 transactions we're talking about. Where are we going to get these leads from? How many open houses are you going to do this month? If open houses are, popular in your area. And even being strategic about what open houses you do. I'm not sure, I'm assuming it's the same where you guys are from as it is here. There's a lot of agents who have listings that they don't mind having open houses done on, but as the agent, they don't want to do them. They don't necessarily need to do them anymore in order to generate their business. Talk to agents in your area, whether or not you know them, find other EXP agents. Most EXP agents are going to be happy to try and help you out. If they're not doing the open house, you can just ask them, say, can I sit in an open house for you? Your seller's open to that. Do you mind? Try and look for open houses in areas that you know are popular in your city, where you expect that there's going to be traffic, and then try and book them on a timeline when it's going to be busy. For example, I represent a builder here in Saskatchewan, and I've got some townhouses. So I asked them, the newer agents in my area, if they wanted to have an open house at the show home, because the builder's fine with me bringing some other agents in to help me with that. And one particular agent, fabulous agent, but he kept picking a time that was earlier in the day on a Saturday. So we currently have our parade of homes running in that particular area where this builder is. And the parade of homes runs from 2:30 to 5:30. But he kept wanting to book his open houses 12 to 1:30. Well, he wasn't getting anybody through. So I kind of, gave him some guidance and some push. And I'm like, okay, why don't you try it when the builders are already paying to bring people into the area on multiple other houses? You just booked the same time, set up your signs, decided to do it, actually listened, and had a busy open house. So there's some very common sense elements that you can do in there. So really be specific on planning out how many open houses you're going to do, where are you going to do them, what times you're going to do them. Now, some other things that I've got mentioned in here as well with your quarterly goal is maybe start to think about forming a monthly newsletter. It could be an email element. You do now have to have somebody opt into emails as well, which is fine. You can slowly start to build your database. It doesn't have to be big. If you've been in the business for a while and you've got a database and they're open to receiving emails from you, it's a usually pretty an easy thing to ask if you can stay in touch via these newsletters. The newsletters can be quite a variety of things. You can partner with a mortgage broker who does a blog. Hop on their website, grab an article from their blog, obviously credit them for it, but pull that into your newsletter. You can pull gardening tips, house tips. If you're doing an event or you're doing an open house or something, put some of that information in there. Put information on, say, how many places have sold in the city in different styles or areas, how many places are listed, just some general stats. You'll start to get a feel for it. I have dropped my newsletter into the chat before, afterwards, or else I think it was in Workplace. There might still be a link to it in Workplace where you can just go take a look. And I mean, it's not perfect by any means, but it gets a good reaction. If I'm doing any sort of client event, I usually do one coming up here again. I wait until November, well, Remembrance Day has passed, and then I kick off my client event for the holiday season, which is a gingerbread house competition. And straight up, we tell people all the time, if you hear an idea that you like, R&D, rip off and duplicate. I heard it from another agent who's somewhere down in the US. I loved it. So I've done it now where I reach out to all my database. I send it out in my newsletter. I send out an email as well. And basically say, hey, we're doing a gingerbread house contest. Do you want a gingerbread house? So I actually go to Costco. I get the pre-made, fully built mansions to make it easy for them. All they have to do is decorate it. In past years, I've run around and I've actually dropped off the houses, which I might do again because I can usually find, somebody, a teenager or somebody who I can pay a little bit, and they'll do a big run around and drop off houses. But it's definitely a commitment. You got to get organized and get it done, but it gives you lots of touch points as far as how you can get in front of people. So you can include things like that in your newsletter, in your mail outs, and those can all be part of your goals that you're breaking down as well. How do we approach builders to show their homes, drop our cards? Well, that's kind of a different topic. I won't get into that too much right now. If a builder does not have realtor representation, then you might want to talk to them about something like that, but they might not just let you sit at one of their open houses because they have in-house salespeople as well. Door knocking tomorrow by the neighbors. Perfect. Yeah, I like that. That's very good. So now once you've got kind of your short-term goals, again, like we said, the quarterly. So hopefully you've been writing some of your own down just to start to brainstorm for yourself. Now, again, start to write down for yourself, not just on a general basis, stuff that you want to do on a daily basis. Start to commit to how many contacts you think you need to make, your social posts, how many you're going to do that. If you don't have your database built up, start to commit to daily actions to do that. Even start to say like, okay, I'm going to go through all my other stuff. I'm going to transfer this many clients into my CRM, as far as, making sure you've got their email address or phone number, verifying things as you bring them into your CRM, maybe touch base with them, make sure that you've got the consent to email them or call them or things like that. So those are all daily habits that you can take where you're going to set out a specific number of things you're going to do per day. So now that you kind of have an idea on how you can break things down, I think it's really important to note that you need to track your progress. So don't just go through these things in your head. Actually, put it on paper, simple, and then review things regularly. So if you are doing this on a daily basis and writing it down, every week you're going to track at the end, okay, how many of the things that I said I'm going to do did I do? I said I was going to contact 5 people every day. Every day, just put a little checklist or something. Have a whiteboard or something in your office where you can be like, there's my 5 for the week, or there's my 5 for today. So at the end of the week, you happen to get your 5 every day. And it might just be a Monday to Friday thing. Not saying it has to be Saturday, Sunday every day. It's not bad to have your days off. Like we said, it's good to have your rested and stuff as well. But start to review what you're doing. If you are easily hammering off your short-term goals, getting them done every week, maybe as you are going through things, if you look at the end of your week and that's been easy for you, maybe challenge yourself a bit, up it a little bit next time. If you're having a really hard time reaching those goals, I'm not saying to make it super easy on yourself, but maybe back off just a little bit. Maybe you were overly aggressive on what you set, or maybe you're just not being as committed as you could. So basically, you're going to have to kind of decide that for yourself, but you're going to have to refocus and evaluate as you go. But as you track it, you're going to be able to watch what you're doing. Stay very specific with your actions. Create stuff when you're thinking about things to do, almost put a verb at the beginning of it. I need to call this many people, text this many people, book my open house, actionable steps that you can actually track. And as we said, remember, celebrate your wins, have that gratitude every day, and keep that mindset right. Now, coming into all of that, it can sound like a lot, so we need to find a way to create some balance. And that's one of the things, I mean, being in as long as I have, and I think we find this in any area of life, it is hard to create balance. It's not something that we find, it's something we constantly work to adjust and achieve. I don't think it's an end goal. With gratitude, optimism is sustainable. And yes, I agree, Kathy, exactly. It makes such a difference. So when you are looking, this is an example of basically a weekly planner and what mine looks like. So I should almost expand this a little bit for myself so I can read how I have it in here, because I don't have mine directly in front of me. What you'll see is I kind of have mine color coded. The yellow elements are kind of personal time for me. I usually get up before my family, so I've got some quiet times in there. The orange time for me is the gym. I've actually modified this a little bit. I don't often do 4 days a week anymore. I usually do 3 days a week. I've kind of switched it to Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I just find as I've gotten older, it just works better as far as the rest in between. Doesn't mean that I don't get to the gym or do something physical on the other days, but I've got those 3 very distinct days that are scheduled in that I go. I usually go early in the morning because I like to have it done for the day. Gives me the energy I need throughout the day. And if I don't do it, it's just too easy for the day to get ahead of me. The red sections that you're going to see in my schedule are actually just pre-existing trainings that are in, like the Monday morning. There is a group of us here, EXP agents, where the one guy actually kind of does a kind of an educational call. It's kind of a mastermind where we go on and we can chat about different issues that we're having in the market, different things that we can do. So it's a good one that I try and hop on. Tuesday morning is our brokerage meeting. So that's just scheduled right into my calendar. I keep that set apart. And then green are education times. So I should actually update this slide. My education times have adjusted slightly based on what I've been working on. But as you can see, I've got 2 hours scheduled into my week every week for education. Sometimes I'm working on a course that I'm doing independently outside of EXP. Sometimes it is hopping into different EXP classes, but I like to get at least 2 hours a week in there. And then the blue are the hours that I commit more so to work. So that can look like a variety of things. But if I've got a client who calls me and wants to see a house, I will always try and work within that blue area. Now you might think that's a little bit weird because I kind of have it stopping at supper time. The reason being is most of us do like to be home in the evenings with our family. As I've gotten more into my career, I really try and take my weekends and my evenings off. But you're also going to see a section that's just white. The white section is a flex time, because I do acknowledge that there are certain people, if they're working 9 to 5 all week, they're not going to be able to necessarily clear a slot in my blue timeline to, have an appointment with me. So I do have the white flex time. If I have to work on a weekend, I try and keep it into Saturday, keep my Sunday wide open. Purple is family time. And I know that my kids are gone right now, but my daughter, I should update this a little bit. She usually stops by on Saturday morning now. So I've kind of adjusted things where this Saturday morning we blocked off as purple so I can hang out with her, keep my morning or my afternoon open in case I need to push a client appointment into the weekend. But I usually have kind of a flex space of about an hour or so in the evening during the week that if I need to pop out and show something, it doesn't interfere with our supper time, but it's also not cutting into the main part of the evening as well. And there is flexibility here depending on what's happening in the market and stuff, but this is my main outline of when I am booking appointments, all of the element that I try and schedule in first. Like I work to get my appointments into that blue time zone. How often people can make that work? They happen to have a day off or an afternoon here and there, and you can usually get things scheduled in. But That's how I work to create some balance. I really specifically schedule a time that is specifically family. On this on a calendar app or a spreadsheet. This is literally, I don't put my actual appointments in here. This is literally a visual that I just have in my office. And I've got a printout that I know I've passed over to Nikki before, so it's probably in workplace. And if not, they've probably got access to it still that they can drop for you guys again. And it's a blank one, so you can go in and color code it to yourself, how you guys want, and whatever's going to work best for you. And it does, it gets modified. Like I said, my slide isn't updated, but I will update this one. So in my office, this is now the top of my Saturday is going to be marked off purple, since that's kind of been what's happened with my daughter. And like I said, I need to adjust where my green slots, my education slots are going, because I am working on a course right now that I'm trying to spend an hour on the first part of a couple of days. So I'll update the one that's sitting in front of me. But if you have it as a visual, wherever you usually sit when you're booking your appointments, if that is in front of you, it's going to be just a constant reminder of when you're booking things to try and book it in those timelines to keep your balance. One of the other quotes that I've always enjoyed, Winston Churchill: success is not final, failure is not fatal, it's the courage to continue that counts. And then Karen Lamb: 1 year from now, you'll be glad you started today. All this comes back to that implementation, just your practices that you're doing, your daily habits, and that consistency, how it pays off. I believe we've got our books coming. There we go. So these are some of the books that I'd reference, some of my favorites. And I could be modifying this constantly, but these are pretty generally ones that I always go back to. The 12-week year is the one that's really fabulous if you're looking to try and figure out how to really plan your year in the most productive way. The One Thing by Gary Keller, very good. Miracle Morning. So there's a whole bunch of different versions of Miracle Morning. There's your basic one. There's one specifically for real estate agents, for millionaires. I know whether or not John Sy taught the last mindset, I'm not certain. I didn't get to that one, but I know he teaches it. He practices a Miracle Morning practice, which is called Savers. So it's silence and affirmations. I believe it is, correct me if I'm wrong, Nikki, visualization, education, reading, and scribing. So it's a whole practice that will implement where they run through that every morning to really set their intentions for the day. Great information there. The compound effect really speaks to what we're talking about on our daily basis, this habit that we put into place daily, and how much that grows, how these little actions, these little things that we start to implement, how much they can really, really affect our overall growth, whether it's in business or personal life. And exactly like the name of the book says, the compound effect. Psycho-cybernetics, kind of take that with a grain of salt. It's a little bit of a geek out version on the element of what your brain can actually do, and how some people absolutely hate it because it's very long. It's an older book. I just found it really interesting because you start to see or understand your brain in a different matter, and how strong your mindset and everything is, and how we can actually retrain the neural pathways of our brain, fire at a different level, and to fire at a different, instead of constantly focusing on the negative, you can retrain that pathway, actually focus on the positive. Related to the Atomic Habits, yes, that is another one. I really like that one, like the one I mentioned today. I'm going to make sure that I gave you the right title on that one. I'm just going to quickly open my Audible, the one that I'm reading. Yeah, Willpower Doesn't Work. Discover the Hidden Keys to Success by Benjamin Hardy. I'm really enjoying that one. I'm probably about halfway through, and it's got some really good information as well. So those are some of the books that I would recommend if you're just looking for a few to add to your list, and I'm going to start to schedule those in. And like I said, I will drop in my planner. So my planner, you don't have to have read the 12-week year to understand it, I don't think, and use it. But I'll just give it to you as a guide. It gives you something to start on, or even just a reference. It's going to break down, it'll give you pages on how you can break down your goals, look at your year overall, what are the goals you want, how you're going to break that down into quarters, and then it gives you the actual, like, week by week habits that you're going to implement. And if you want to use it, you're welcome to it. If not, not a problem. And if you read the book, I think it might make a little bit more sense on how I would set up, but otherwise, any like questions or thoughts that you guys have that you want to throw at me, because I think that's kind of what I have now. How many of you build a business plan? Kathy does, yeah. Not yet. Some have, not yet. Well, like I said, I've been in real estate for almost 16 years. I didn't start business planning until probably about 5 years ago. I spent a good portion of my career, I was never taught how to do it. So now that I've started, I will never go back. It's vital in making your business grow and to making it actually feel like a business when you start to implement the systems and the strategies. So a lot of people are working on it. That's awesome. Perfect time of year to be working on it. Dender will have some more training. There we go. Yeah, so Nikki said that specifically on business planning for the new year. That's awesome. 100% worth it. Oh, as far as going on a team, all my life. Going on a team, you're going to kind of have to weigh out, I guess, what the advantages of being on the team are, what they're going to offer you. It can be a great way if you're just starting to really get to know the business, start to build up some leads and stuff. Teams operate differently. You're going to have to determine whether or not the clients that you pick up, whether or not they are going to be your clients, if those clients are going to belong to the team, and if you have to leave that database with them when you walk away. If you're allowed to keep your database that you're building, you can work out something like that. A team can be an excellent way to get you off the ground. If it's a team that retains your leads and you don't have rights to them, I would maybe rethink and maybe look around a little bit. So you're really going to have to delve into what that particular team is offering you and if it's going to make sense for you. Want to start ASAP. I think it's worth it. I mean, start looking at what you want to do for the next year. Never too late to start planning. PDF, I actually have to send it to Nikki yet. She doesn't have it yet, so I'm going to drop it to Nikki. I will do that as soon as we're off the call, and she will post it for you guys. And then you'll have access to the PDF. I actually take a binder. I get a big, probably 1.5 to 2 inch binder. I get 4 dividers. I have, the first page is called a year in review, kind of look over your last year, and it actually touches on what is your why? Why are you doing what you're doing? And that's something that, again, can be a whole different training, delving into why you're building these goals out, something to think about. And then it gives you a spot to write down your first 4 goals as far as the overall ones for the year. And then I kind of put that at the beginning of my binder. And then within each quarter, there's a front sheet for your main goals, what you're planning on doing that quarter, and then you get actionable steps for each week. So then I actually print out 4 versions of all the actionable steps, and my binder has it quarterly broken down. So I can just keep going. Once my year is set up, I've got my binder ready, and every day, every week, you go in, you plan out your week, what you're doing, your action steps, you track it, and then you've got a binder kind of you can refer to at the end. I don't keep mine from year to year. Some people do. I actually kind of do a full review at the end of the year. I go over my year in review, what I did good at, what I didn't do good at, what I need to work on. I trash my old ones, and then I start a new binder, but you can keep them to refer back to as well. But yeah, I think that's kind of it as far as what I have so far. Did I miss anything there, Nikki? Anything we should touch on?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Like I mentioned, we are going to have later in the year, it's not too long away, but in December, we like to host some business planning sessions so that you can kind of really dive deep into things that you want to put on that list. I can, honestly, for me, I love to set out my goals for sure and what I want to attain for the year and kind of break them down. And I find, like you said, the more that I put them into bite-sized pieces, the better I am at accomplishing those goals. And sometimes just kind of, like you said, thinking about it and planning and saying it out loud and maybe reviewing it with somebody else just sets you on the right path to make sure you are working towards those goals. And sometimes you have to adjust the finish, not even the finish line. I always call the finish line because I'm a runner and I'm always waiting to cross that finish line. But sometimes you have to adjust the flags as you go, maybe, or the timing paths, that we get to cross as runners, and along the way and review it. Definitely take time to review them monthly or quarterly at the very latest. But it's so important to kind of put some of those things out there and decide what you want for your careers and then make the best use of your time. I said at the beginning of this session that as realtors, our schedules are, I'm using quotations, flexible, which is true. I have the beauty of being able to run my kids to doctor's appointments during the day because I'm not sitting at a full-time job when I'm not doing this job, by the way, when I'm actually working full-time in real estate. So they can be flexible, but that time can also get away with you if you don't prioritize it and plan and have goals in mind for the year and plans in mind for the day. So it's really important that you kind of set your day out and always do those important income producing activities first thing in the morning, get them out of the way, that you can win the day.
Definitely. The other thing I was going to mention as well is, so even when I had my visual calendar up there, my color coded one, there are people I know who obviously they have to pick up their kids after school, things like that. They will block off from 10 to 5 p.m. And they'll tell their clients straight up, I am not available during this time because I'm running with my kids, everything else. Clients are very, very understanding. If you are upfront with them and just tell them I'm not available during this time, they'll usually respect that. So make your calendar work for you. Don't schedule them based on what somebody else is doing, what you think is right. Work it into what's going to work for you and actually have your business make sense with your life.
Yeah, and I think I had a colleague that I worked with for years that her husband was military and he was often traveling, and she had a young child, and she made it very clear to her clients when she was meeting with them for the first time that 3:30 to 6:30 was a time blocked off during the week that she needed to be there to get him home from school and get him fed, and then she could go back to appointments and have him truck along if she needed to in the evening. But when you set those parameters out with your clients ahead of time, for the most part, you're working with like-minded people, right? You've attracted each other for a reason, and they're going to understand those boundaries if you're just honest with them about what's happening. And don't be afraid to tell your clients that you have other quote appointments. If you are going to church or the gym or whatever, they don't need to always know what you're doing. If you've got a plan in mind and you've set your day out, sometimes clients expect us to jump at the last minute all the time, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. So don't be afraid to tell them you have an appointment, even if it is a personal appointment. They don't need the details of that. We can quickly get wrapped up in this career in dropping everything and running, and it affects our personal lives, our families, ourselves. So I like setting those kind of boundaries out from the beginning. I've forgotten my daily planner for personal growth. I realize so oriented. This is a good reminder. Sorry, Blake, I didn't understand your broken English. Blake is one of our coaches. Go ahead, Blake.
I type in a hurry sometimes, sorry. This was really good, Angela. I'm big on, guys, listen to this was an awesome course for everybody. I have my daily schedule set up, but it's always, I'm really good on time blocking for making my calls and things, but I forget about personal growth. So this is an example, take a course over and over and over again, because I'm going to twig my calendar a little bit and put some personal growth in there, reading and things, because it's easy to get off track. So this really good course, Angela.
Yeah, thank you, Blake. And definitely, I tell our new agents as we get started all the time that the more you get engaged in with the company and real estate and everything that's going on, the more successful you're going to be. So when you talk about personal growth, things like being at today's live session is personal growth. Going to your weekly or bi-weekly sales meetings for your province is personal growth. You're going to get to know your peers, the fellow agents that you work with, and you get to interact with them, especially if you're looking for things like open houses and maybe help along the way. Then getting to be a part of those meetings and scheduling them into your business plan is going to make a huge difference in your career. So get involved. That's a really important piece of the puzzle. It's easy to, stay at home or be in our kind of personal bubbles in virtual worlds, but there's so many ways to connect in this virtual world and be a part of the progress that it's really going to help you succeed in your career. So please get involved and take in. I applaud you all for being here today and putting that into your schedule. It's an important piece of your success. Okay, I saw a couple questions. Blake, Ashley would like to connect with you. She's in Kelowna. That's awesome. I love those connections. Have you considered a virtual assistant? If so, what activities can they perform? So Karen, I'm going to say I've never had a virtual assistant. Having said that, I have hired assistants to do specific work. I have a bookkeeper that I work with all the time. I like to be in charge of my own paperwork and stuff at the office. It's just maybe a control issue for myself. But sometimes it's nice to have somebody help maintain your database, enter those deals and information into your database. What about you, Angela? Do you have a virtual assistant or somebody that helps you with some of your least favorite tasks?
I do now. I actually hired somebody about a year ago, and for myself, my sister is actually a stay-at-home mom who homeschools 7 kids. She was looking for a job, and based on what she does, she's incredibly organized. So we started working together, and she takes care of all my back end side of uploading everything to SkySlope, organizing everything in our files. If an email comes in that's got an amendment or something, I forward it all to her. She gets it where it needs to go. And then I also have somebody else who handles a little bit of my client touch side of things. I have birthday cards made up. I've got an agreement with a local gelato place here where it basically every month, it's my mom who does that side. She jumps in and she looks at my database. She pulls all the birthdays for the month and she handwrites the envelope, mails out these cards that basically say happy birthday, enjoy a scoop of gelato on me. And it's got the Beppy's location, their logo and everything. So they actually have to go in and redeem the card in order to get their scoop, which is kind of nice because then I don't have to buy a bunch of gift certificates up front. I just touch base with Paola, the owner of the store, once a month. I pay for anybody who actually came in and got their gelato. But so I hire somebody out for a few of those extra touches, making sure that I'm getting those done, and then the paperwork side of things.
That's awesome. So fun. I love the gelato idea. What a great idea.
That's fun.
Brian is one of our coaches, and he says he has a VA to upload listings and help with SkySlope, which is fantastic too. Just so you know, if you're hiring somebody to load your information into our MLS systems, you're liable for that information. So you just always want to be double checking their work, right? If there's incorrect measurements or information about the home on there, we are always the liable one as licensees. So just a side note to make sure you're reviewing what they're loading. All right. I hear the connection happening here, the meetup in Kelowna. So that's so exciting. I'm glad some of you guys are going to get the opportunity to meet tonight. That's awesome. I wish I could join you, but it's a little bit far. Okay. There isn't a certificate for the class. I did see that question asked as well. There is an attendance link. Maybe Amy will drop that for us again here. Make sure you have signed in for today's class. Please also make sure you are always signing in, or rather entering on your success tracker that you have been in today's class. Our live world and our on-demand world do not connect. Sorry, I'm trying to read here. And do not communicate with each other is the words I'm looking for. I'm trying to read and talk at the same time. Oh boy, Nikki, focus. Okay, so yes, please mark your attendance for today's class in the success tracker. Today's class is business planning, and it is week 4 of our cycle, but depending on where you have started joining us, it could be kind of a different numbered week in your journey here at Bootcamp. So I love all the chat meetup. Guys, what I'm gonna do is start a post in workplace group in our New Agent Bootcamp workplace group. And if you guys want to mention where you're from in that post, and then you can always make some connections there so that we don't kind of lose that momentum here in the chat. But we're going to take action and have the opportunity to meet your colleagues. That's fantastic. I'm here at EXP because of a connection I made with an agent out of Barrie, Ontario, probably 15 years ago. So you never know where these connections can lead you. And like I said, get involved. It's incredible. So. All right. The success tracker is attached to your welcome email that you would have received from us. It's also at the top of the workplace group for Bootcamp. So